if you were watching CBS television on January 12, 1971. The network surprised audiences with a humorous spotlight on our frailties, prejudices, and concerns. You were seeing the beginnings of the television show All in the Family. The show opens with Carol O'Connor and Gene Stapleton as the characters Archie and Edith Bunker. They're sitting side by side, singing the show's theme song, Those Were the Days. Boy, the way Glenn Miller played. Songs that made the hit parade. Guys like us, we had it made. Those were the days. The Bunkers are a working-class family in Queens, New York in the 1970s. Loading dock foreman Archie, played by Carol O'Connor, is a super opinionated patriarch of the family. His wife, Edith, played by Gene Stapleton, is patient beyond reason. Gloria, played by Sally Struthers, is his feminist little girl, and Mike, played by Rob Reiner, is his argumentative son-in-law. Archie has a tendency to put himself out there and express just what he feels. Mike always overreacts to his comments, and Edith and Gloria end up soothing things over. Creator Norm Lear based Archie and Edith on his own parents. But the series dealt with intergenerational conflicts that are completely relatable to everyone that views the program. The show was a top-rated show for 5 years, and it won 22 Emmy Awards. And it's ranked number 9 on Rolling Stone's list of the greatest TV shows of all time. Like a host of long-running shows, All in the Family evolved over its 9-season run. Neighbors George and Louise Jefferson, played by Sherman Hemsley and Isabel Sanford, end up moving on up to the east side of Manhattan for a spin-off series. Mike and Gloria leave for California with their baby. Archie and Edith end up filling their empty nest with Edith's grandniece, Stephanie. And then finally, Archie buys a neighborhood bar and renames it Archie Bunker's Place. The most important evolution of the entire show is that of Archie. He ends up being a better man at the end of All in the Family than he was at the beginning. Tons of notable guest stars pop into the show, like Sammy Davis Jr., Henry Fonda, Billy Crystal, B. Arthur, James Cromwell, David Soul, Bernadette Peters, Cleavon Little, and the list just goes on and on. Now, it's pretty interesting that the views of Archie are so conservative, but in reality, Carol O'Connor's personal views on political and social issues were really very liberal. Carol O'Connor was living in Italy when he was offered this role as Archie Bunker. He accepted the role, but only under one condition, and that was that the producers would pay for his flight back to Italy if the pilot was not picked up. Gene Stapleton decided to do the series, over-starring in Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory. It seems that she made the right choice to go with All in the Family because it ran for 8 years. She won worldwide acclaim and fame for her work on the show. Of the show's spin-offs, The Jeffersons was the longest running, airing for 11 seasons. And that's more than All in the Family lasted. The Jeffersons ended in a similar fashion as Archie Bunker's Place. The network ended up making the decision to abruptly cancel each of these series without informing the actors, which in both cases caused a lot of bitterness amongst the cast and crew. And it also created a general uneasiness in the industry. The cancellations possibly resulted from the network punishing Norman Lear and Carol O'Connor, who regularly engaged in confrontations with CBS over salary and censorship issues. This went on for many years, and it's thought that the networks were just fed up with it, and they decided to show their muscle. Once the ratings fell a little bit, CBS was finally able to show their position and throw their weight around and completely cancel the show and get back at Lear and O'Connor. Now, Rob Reiner, who played Meathead, was losing his hair so fast that when the show debuted, he didn't wear a hairpiece, but halfway through the show's first season, he had to start wearing one. That role of Mike was offered to Harrison Ford, who turned down the part because he felt that Archie Bunker's bigotry was too offensive to him. Richard Dreyfuss was also up for the role, and Mickey Rooney was actually up for the role of Archie. Just think about how different these shows could have been had these actors taken the roles. The Bunkers' neighbors, Frank and Irene Lorenzo, disappeared from the series with no explanation. Vincent Gardenia, who played Frank, quit the series after 8 appearances as Frank due to some real personal disputes with Norman Lear. Betty Garrett continued as Irene until the middle of season 6, leaving the series to care for a sick relative of hers. But people really think that that wasn't the case for her, that she actually wanted to be on the cast of Laverne and Shirley. This was the first television program to earn Emmys for all of its principal cast members. Although The Odd Couple, which actually aired a year before, also produced Emmys for its stars Jack Klugman and Tony Randall. But All in the Family was a much larger cast, and it was pretty amazing for a sitcom to obtain this honor. When the initial outrage after the premiere died down, ratings were so low that the show was about to be canceled. Then, to the genuine surprise of many of the people connected with the show, it started building a substantial audience during the summer of 1971 during the rerun season. In August of that year, less than a month before the 1971-72 season was scheduled to begin, CBS announced that the series would be renewed. When CBS started running the show during the day in 1975, it was edited by 3 minutes to allow for more commercial time. Norman Lear wasn't happy with this at all. He didn't like the editing one bit, and he offered to pay for the commercial time that would have been lost by showing it uncut. But CBS declined his offer. Originally, the theme song was going to be performed by an orchestra. However, due to budgetary concerns, it was decided that the series stars, Carol O'Connor and Gene Stapleton, would perform the song seated at the piano. The two stars updated their rendition each year. Now here's the amazing thing about this opening sequence, is that there's a continual running gag about Edith's incompetent singing. But in actuality, Gene Stapleton was a professionally trained and accomplished singer who had performed in musical theater and productions throughout her career. This is an amazing thing to have happen, to have somebody that has a professionally trained voice sing poorly. They really have trouble doing that. And just the fact that she was able to pull this off so well is just amazing. Everybody thought that she was just a terrible singer. But the truth be known, she was not only an excellent singer, she was an excellent actress by being able to accomplish this feat at the piano. Now, the writers of the show really considered a storyline in which Archie had an affair with the next-door neighbor, Irene Lorenzo. But the plans were dropped, as it was determined that it would be way too far out of character for both Archie and Irene to have done this. Now, this is again one of those shows that we see where they tape 2 performances of each broadcast. And during this, they're able to take and combine the best takes. This is a very common thing that's done today, but at that time, very few shows did it that way. In 1972, Gene Stapleton appeared on Rowan and Martin's Laugh-In and took part in a parody of All in the Family. Although she played the role of Edith Bunker in the parody, she refused to speak in the distinctive voice that she used in All in the Family. Instead, she used her normal speaking voice, which sounded nothing like Edith Bunker. During a contract holdout, Carol O'Connor missed the taping of 4 episodes. 3 episodes were filmed about Archie failing to return from a convention. The producers gave O'Connor an ultimatum at that point that the story arc would conclude with Edith finding out that Archie had been murdered. All in the Family is one of the U.S.'s most important and acclaimed programs. It's been referenced and parodied in countless forms of media. Take a look back at some reruns of this hilarious show. Thank you so much for watching, and we'll continue to chase the classics.